I'd like to invite each candidate to take 30 seconds to introduce him or herself to our audience.
30 seconds? That is nigh on impossible. How can anyone convey ideas in such a short amount of time? I was born and raised on a farm. I think that anything that anyone needs to learn about life can be learned by being raised on a farm. I became a surveyor of land. I became a soldier at 21 years of age, fought for king and country during the French and Indian War. We were successful. I ended up marrying a widow, Martha Dandridge Custis, and she became my lady wife nigh on 40 years now. And then, of course, I was called by my country yet again during extreme difficulties with the king and his ministers, and ultimately raising up arms against our mother country, Great Britain, the most powerful fighting force in the entire world, and I was appointed commander-in-chief unanimously.
I wasn't sure I was going to get to talk again.
I was frightened, to be certain. I had led a regiment. I had never led an army. We are ultimately successful. 8.5 years later, peace. We are an independent, sovereign nation. And we had to decide what kind of country we were going to be. I had a hand as the presiding officer of the Constitutional Convention, where, through the spirit of concession and mutual amity, we constructed a constitution that led to our raising up of a nation for the first time in human history, based on ideas, not religion, not power, and constrained by the laws in the Constitution. I was elected unanimously to the presidency of these United States of America, and this is a remarkable experiment, because the rest of the world does not believe that man can govern himself. I would suggest to you that I am learning every day in the presidency, and that I take counsel from every quarter and then make my own decisions for the betterment and overall welfare of the citizenry of these United States of America. I am your humble and obedient servant.
Where do you stand on the issue of birthright citizenship?
Birthright, I am not exactly sure what you mean. If you are speaking about the subject of immigration to these shores, I would suggest to you that we are a nation of immigrants. My family, my great-grandfather, John Washington, my father referred to him as John the Immigrant. He came to these shores to make a better life for himself, for his family. There are nigh on 3, almost 4 millions of us here in this nation. We welcome those who are seeking a better life, who are oppressed, who want to improve their economic situation. I, as the Chief Magistrate of the nation, would only ask that they contribute to their society, they become an American, and that they do not allow themselves to fall into clannish enclaves where they do not mix with their fellow citizens. I have one other point to add. When you become a citizen of a country, you demean yourself in the most favorable way to the government and to its requirements of its citizens, and that includes the financial responsibilities of paying taxes, something that none of us like to do, but it is necessary and it is required.
For voters looking to somebody with private sector experience to create American jobs, why should they pick you and not Donald Trump?
I apologize. I do not know this Mr. Trump that you speak of, although I have been told he is involved in land speculation and development. This is something that is near and dear to myself. You know, my first real profession was a surveyor, and I began to amass my land holdings. This is very important in Virginia. But as I grew older, I understood that commerce and business is the lifeblood of this nation, if truth be told. It needs to be balanced with agriculture for certain. But on the business side, I have diversified myself to some significant degree. I am involved in commercial fishing operations. We bring nigh on 1 million fish out of the Potomac River every year. I am involved in weaving of cloth. I am involved in the distillation of spirituous liquors. I own ships. And of course, I am a merchant grain grower. I have a grist mill. I grind my own grain into 4 grades of flour. I also grind the grain from my neighbors for a toll or a charge. And so I do believe in diversification. I do believe in business. I am very much about free enterprise.
What do you think of the flat tax? Do you think it's fair?
I would suggest to you that I have no idea what you're talking about with regard to a flat tax, but I can speak on the subject of taxes, which, as I have written, is something that no one enjoys paying, but is critically important that every citizen assumes payment of taxes. We have a staggering war debt from our War of American Independence. I don't mean to shock those of you who are engaged in watching this, but our national debt is currently at 70 millions of dollars. We need to pay that down. So we do it through tariffs and importation taxes. We do it through excise taxes, for example, on whiskey. But taxes are critically required. The Constitution clearly states that the Congress shall have the ability to levy tax requirements when necessary for the public credit and the cost of running the government. I am paraphrasing, but again, no one wants to pay taxes, but it is necessary in a democratical republic which has a national government.
When are we going to get some names on your military and your foreign policy advisors?
And I'm meeting.
Sir, good sir, I implore you to be gentlemanly and allow me to finish my discourse. I shall do the same for all of you. Well, let me see. Colonel Hamilton, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Randolph, General Knox, I assume you have heard of these gentlemen. Shall I go on?
Earlier this year, the Treasury Department announced that a woman will appear on the $10 bill. What woman would you like to see on the $10 bill?
Well, truth be told, I don't believe that any individual should be on our currency. The visage of an individual is too monarchical. We have no kings or queens in this country. That said, I would suggest that my lady wife, Martha Washington, be considered. She provided a remarkable service to this nation, not simply in support of me, not as a counselor to myself, but imagine, she attended the soldiery and the army every winter of our 8.5 years during the War of American Independence, and she continues to work in something she calls fundraising for the veterans. She is a good and great lady worthy of recognition.
You don't have to come up with the one for your spouse, but what would you want your Secret Service code name to be?
The Secret Service. I assume you mean my lifeguard. A code name. Well, during the war, I was Agent 711, perhaps 711. But maybe the farmer.